Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association and presence as we continue associating with Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, chapter 2, verses 8 to 14, the Lord in the Heart. Om Jnanatime Vandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastatya Satari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusham Sarva Vaireka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokai Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwando Didaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you are enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You actually are Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshasharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss, for your syllables reign pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mat Sangem Mad Guru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Manananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. Asadu sadhu kadahin atini chochataraka hanamun chakada chinmam premna hritkataya spura. Srimad Bhagavatam, O give us saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma Throat, accompanying pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaditaratas Charte Swabhigna Swara Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatrati Sargom Mrisha Damna Svena Sada Nirastapurkam Satyam Param Dhimai. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of the Spirit, O pervading personality of God, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly, indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original loving being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in delusion, as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayana Paisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagyo Padrata. O learned one, in this age of Kali, many but short lives, they are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and above always disturbed. Narayan Namaskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Niran Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savaipum Soparo Dharmo Yato Bhaktira Dokshaja Hayutukiya Prati Yata Yatma Suprisiddhati. The supreme occupation, dharma of all humanity, is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service with the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatu Sabhayaragyam Jnanam Chayadahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires, causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yaj gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know this absolute, who know the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance Brahman Paramatma Bhagavan. Shrushrushrosadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahap Sevaya Viprapunya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees are completely free from all vice. Great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing messages of Vasudeva. Shrinutam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nasta prayashu badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatutama sloke bhakti bhavati nashtiki. By regular attendance in the class from the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duties, to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and welcome back. To correct that, so let us cover any feedback from Canto 2, Chapter 2, verses 1 to 7. Last week's session, we share anything that caught your attention, anything you remember, anything that you felt you want to memorize, contemplate, and discuss. While you're typing, I will share Prabhupada's power statements from that section. This forgetfulness of the living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant ant, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virat Roop of the Lord. This chance is available in the human form of life. And if a human being follows the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, then revival of his pure consciousness and counteraction of the tendency to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. And as soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasai Buddhi is mentioned here, Bhagavad Gita 2:41, follows at once. So the point here is we all are forgetful of Krishna. It is the nature of the material world to cover you and then to push you far away from Krishna. Why? Because our desire is to enjoy separately from Krishna. So if your desire is to enjoy separately from Krishna in the material world, then you cannot think of Krishna. Just like if somebody is envious of another person, they don't want to be in the presence of that person. So because of the living entity's envy of Krishna, he does not want to be with Krishna, and therefore the material nature facilitates that desire. And in this way he forgets. Now, to reverse that process, when we realize our mistake, when we realize what's good for us, what we really need, and what we really need is Krishna. So now in order to get Krishna, we need to remember Krishna. But because we are so far away from loving Krishna, then we have to take the first step. And the first step is to connect with Krishna through those things which we are immediately connected with. And we are immediately connected with matter. So therefore, use matter to think of Krishna. And Krishna made a wonderful arrangement through the Virat Rupa, this imaginary form, that just by thinking of different parts of matter and contemplating that these are different features of the Supreme Lord, it begins to purify our life and revive our relationship with Krishna. And this process can continue until this full revelation of Krishna begins to manifest. Okay, let's. Shamananda Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, very nice point about no preaching in the spiritual world, only here in the material world. Srila Prabhupada said we will always have customers. True. The material world is an unlimited, infinite, eternal environment. Prabhupada makes another point. There will always be a prison house. So if there's always a prison house, then there's always opportunity for preaching. And in essence, we find that going back to Godhead is there. And we all should want to aspire to go back and return back in the eternal service of Krishna. So that's wonderful. We can do that. And we go there into Goloka Vrindavan. But then there's another territory of Krishna, spiritual territory, called Navadvip. And there they are spreading the glories of Krishna. So the service is eternal in the spiritual world, and the service that Srila Prabhupada has is also eternal in the material world. So those who are following Srila Prabhupada will eternally be in the material world. And even though they're eternally in the material world, because the concept of being eternally in the material world, ouch, no man, I don't want to come back to this miserable world. Gee, it's like horrible. I want to get out. No. So just to, the concept of, gee, really eternal, yeah, no. But just like it's mentioned, Jesus was in this world, but not of this world. Prabhupada came to this world, but is not of this world. Those who are perfect and perfectly aligned to Srila Prabhupada in loving relationship with him and surrender completely to him, they will have the opportunity to come again and again in this material world to serve Srila Prabhupada wherever he is, as his eternal service to Krishna, to Lord Chaitanya. So in this way, we will be protected and shielded from the material energy, but at the same time have the privilege of eternally serving Srila Prabhupada. Amazing phrase Srila Prabhupada uses frequently, make best use of a bad bargain. Yes. We use that as a guide in our endeavors, and this helps one move forward positively. And here's something I like to just add to this point. So we make best use of the bad bargain, and Prabhupada said this material body is a bad bargain, so therefore we make best use of this body. At the same time, we also we want to not fall into two extremes. One extreme is, I have a bad bargain, therefore I don't do anything about the bad bargain and just make best use of the bad bargain. The other is trying to improve the bad bargain at all cost and not making best use of the bad bargain. So I hope I've explained the two sides. One is where we just accept the bad bargain and don't do anything about the bad bargain. And the other is we're trying to improve the bad bargain at all costs. Both extremes are not conducive to spiritual life. What we want to do is, I have a bad bargain, and now I want to see, can I improve the bad bargain so that I can make best use of the improved bad bargain? And the other side is, I have a bad bargain. Don't try to perfect the bad bargain because it's impossible, but see if there's some ways I can improve that bad bargain so that I can make best use of it. And I can give a simple example. Let's say I was born, or during my life, somewhere along the line, I started getting migraine headaches. And the migraine headaches just incapacitates my actions, my activities. It just becomes very difficult. So I can now have two scenarios of that, right? I have a bad bargain. I've got a body and I got migraine. So I can, on the one side, is what to do is my bad bargain. It's my karma. Let me just carry on and practice Krishna consciousness. But it's inhibiting the practice of Krishna consciousness, and you keep contemplating, I hope there's a solution. I don't like this. So instead of focusing on Krishna, you're focusing on trying to contemplate a solution. The other option is you forget Krishna consciousness and you strive with all your energy, might, resources again and again and again and again and again and again and again to try to remove the migraine. So both derails you from Krishna consciousness. On one hand, you need to see if there are ways to eradicate and improve the migraine headaches by natural mechanisms, because the body does have a way to heal. So in that way, without extraneous endeavor, or without endeavors that complicates the issue, so that at least you're able to now focus on Krishna more. And the other is, after trying sufficient modalities, natural modalities, to try to alleviate the migraine, you can come to the conclusion that looks like Krishna wants me to live with this due to my past karma, therefore I accept it. And now I pray to Krishna that, my Lord, please give me the strength to overcome this additional bad bargain so that I can think of it. And in this way, you find now you're coming to the middle path of where you tried to adopt certain remedial measures and you've now accepted. And with that condition, you are now able to peacefully contemplate on Krishna. So that's how really we should use the bad bargain. Very wonderful information about sannyas order. We should all be reminded of, because things have become topsy-turvy even in these early days of Kali Yuga, inside and outside our society. Yes. And here's the other thing. Very often, as aspiring devotees, we become despondent, depressed, heartbroken, frustrated about certain issues in our society and outside the society. When we understand that this is Kali Yuga, so it's no surprise. Just like Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who leaves. Be surprised who stays. We become surprised by who leaves. So when somebody falls in Maya, or somebody who's, or some issues there in the material world, in the society, etc., we become like so worked up. But hold on. It is the nature of this age. It is Kali Yuga. It's expected. Just like it's expected that you will get ill. It's expected that you will get certain levels of pain. Because why? You are living in the world of duality. There's not going to be an environment where there's happiness from A to Z. Because you are living in the world of duality, even if you are surrendered to Krishna. Even if you are 100% surrendered to Krishna. If you are completely surrendered to Krishna, you still going to get some pain of whatever form, shape, size. Why? Because you are in the world of duality. So if we have this concept, I'm going to surrender to Krishna, I'm going to chant Hare Krishna, in this way I'll be completely free from all suffering, that, unfortunately, is an illusion. Sometimes, like parents will tell their children, right? If you're suffering, chant Hare Krishna loudly. If you're in difficulty, chant Hare Krishna loudly. Krishna will help you. If you want to pass your exam, chant Hare Krishna. You pass your exam, Krishna will help you. That is not true. That is not true. Because the child will not put effort, chant Hare Krishna, and say, see, I failed. So what you said about Krishna is not true. You've just directed the child on the wrong path. Or there's some difficulty, and we tell the child, anytime it's difficult, you chant Hare Krishna. You'll be protected. Well, not true. Because the child will be in difficulty. And then the child chants Hare Krishna and doesn't get protected. And things just doesn't work. Krishna is not real. My mother lied, or my parents lied. So we have to understand that surrendering to Krishna doesn't mean that there's no suffering. But definitely when you surrender to Krishna, your consciousness is raised where you can deal with the suffering. Beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita also. Lord Krishna says that to those who surrender to me, I give them the strength by which they can overcome obstacles. Krishna never ever says to those who surrender to me, I will free you from all obstacles in the material world. The only way you can become free is by going back home, back to Godhead. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, reflecting on what was shared in the last two classes, it's becoming clearer that the other prescribed processes for spiritual advancement is only successful because of its being combined with devotional service. Correct. Focusing on the Supreme Lord and glorifying His name, seeing things in relation to Him, yes. Which is interesting because if this isn't done or is absent from their practice, then all that the followers of these processes get is suffering, fall down, and repeat births in the prison of bondage and death. Yes. I just heard one pastime, Srila Bhaktivinoda Maharaj quotes from Ramayana. There's a sage, and the sage, is busy meditating at one point, and this heavenly aeroplane comes, sent by Indra, to pick up the sage to go to heaven because of his increased piety. So the sage says, where are you from? I said, we're from Indraloka. We came to take you to heaven. And he says, what's there in heaven? And they explain all the, lavish, opulent opportunities to enjoy. And then the sage says, so how come I'm qualified to go there? It's because of your piety. Oh, and what happens when I'm there? Well, you'll enjoy facility, and then when your piety is finished, you'll come back. Oh, So then a sage thought, wait a minute, you mean I'm going to go up there, then I'm going to come back down. So why then go there if I'm going to come back down? So that's an intelligent person. Why go to a place when you're going to come back to the same place? Why all that endeavor? So then the sage said, is there a place where I can go and never come back? And the heavenly being said, yes, that is a spiritual world. And the sage said, so what do I need to do to get there? And they said, well, then you need devotional service, not piety. So how do you practice that? And then they explain. So this is intelligence. Right? If we do a process and we do not link it with Krishna, then that process, and the Bhagavatam is very clear. Bhagavatam is very straight, to the point. Shrava eva ikara. Total waste of time. Total waste of time. So therefore, Prabhupada is guiding everyone. Connect with Krishna. It is only bhakti which is standalone. No need to mix anything with it to make it successful. Devotional service is full, perfect, complete to achieve the highest goal. Thanks for making this point jump out at me that clear. It didn't before. Yes. So that's true. Devotional service is completely independent, doesn't need anything, but everything else needs bhakti for perfection. People may not accept that. Well, that's a different situation and no problem. Krishna is not going to force. You will learn. See, most people learn through the school of hard knocks. We may have been in the same boat. Every one of us. Oh, just see, I'm Krishna conscious. These fools and rascals, they don't take the Krishna conscious. Sorry, pause, put a pause button there. Put a pause button. You have no clue what type of rascaldom, nonsense, rejection, atheistic mentality we all had in our past lives. We may be in the exact same boat of those we're trying to cultivate, and criticize. We may be in the exact same boat. But Krishna never stopped reaching out. The pure devotees of the Lord never stopped reaching out. The mercy of the devotees never stopped reaching out. 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% after 100 years, or rather 100 lifetimes of getting that. 1%, 1%, 1% after 100 years. Now when we get a book, it just resonates. The frequency just resonates. Wow, this makes sense. It wasn't at 1%. It wasn't at 50%. It wasn't at 99%. So just as that happens to every living entity, we also never give up extending ourselves to give people, whether it's a 1%, a 0.5%, a 1/4%, and whatever fraction or percentage they require or they want to grab. Our goal is to give out. How much each individual grabs or doesn't grab is none of our business in a sense, and none of our business. It's between them and Krishna. Our business is just to connect, to give, to expose somehow or other, and see those people who are resonating. We simply give. That's all. The advancement, the purification, the degree, the revelation, that's all between them and Krishna. Right. Another power statement. Human life is intended for self-realization of this important factor. And one should act accordingly, accepting only the bare necessities of life and depending more on God's gifts without diversion of human energy for any other purpose, such as being mad for material enjoyment. So human life is really meant for self-realization, to perfect our relationship with God. And for this, We just need the bare necessities so that we can improve our life. One thing which I can also suggest is, as we sharing and reading Prabhupada's points, there may be certain points like, we read Prabhupada's purport and you think, wow, far out, or that's amazing. Or type that in the chat. Either, say wow, or amazing point, or a specific point that you appreciate, because that also allows you to, when you recall that point, it just becomes more solidified in your consciousness. And in this way also, we every 1 year we also get reminded of that point again. That is why we also do the feedback or the reflection. Why? Because we want these points that Prabhupada is sharing, the philosophy that Prabhupada is sharing, we want it to be part of our nature. Here's the interesting point. It's already part of your nature. It's not something we're superimposing. The knowledge that Prabhupada is sharing in his Bhaktivedanta purports is not external, it's not foreign. Because we forgot, it looks like it's foreign. It seems like it's foreign, but it's not foreign. It's part of your nature. Your nature is Sat Chit Ananda. Chit means knowledge. So this knowledge is already part of your nature. That is why when you read Prabhupada's purports, it feels great. It's amazing. It's like far out. I love this. Type in the chat if you have experience that when you read Prabhupada's books or read a purport, or when we're covering these purports, you just feel happy. You feel like amazing. You feel different emotions which are very positive. Type yes if you feel that in the chat. Nalini Kanta says yes. Yes, definitely. Pretty uplifting. Hemavati says yes. Sugiri Goswami says yes. Shamananda says thumbs up. Devji says yes. Cookie says yes. Sharina says yes, especially when something's explained that I had questions about. Yes. Ratna says absolutely. So just see, why is this knowledge giving that experience? Because that knowledge is deep, intrinsically part of your nature. And when you get that knowledge, we give the example, your nature is Sat Chit Ananda, three qualities of your nature. Shana says yes. Your nature is three, Sat Chit Ananda. Chit is the middle. Sorry. Chit, Sat, yeah, Chit is the middle, correct. So Sat is eternality, Chit is knowledge, and Ananda. When we revive Chit, knowledge, through getting exposed to the same knowledge which is there in the Bhaktivedanta purports, it gives us experience of eternality, and it gives us the experience of Ananda. Which means the more I expose myself to this knowledge, the more I will experience eternality, and the more I will experience Ananda. When this knowledge becomes completely revealed, the revelation of eternity will be completely there, and the revelation of Ananda will be completely there. So two things are happening. One is exposure from the outside, going inside, and then from the inside, manifesting outside. Exposure in terms of the Bhaktivedanta purports, and revelation of the same knowledge that Krishna gives. And the more that happens, both sides, the eternality and the bliss start to increase. And that's why you can never get tired You can never tire hearing Prabhupada's purports. In fact, the most amazing part is you could read the same purport again and again and again, eternally, and never feel that you've completely exhausted the purport or that this is boring. It's completely contradictory to the material paradigm. But this is the beauty of Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, the knowledge that Prabhupada is sharing. Okay, thank you for everyone's feedback. Let us now proceed. The Lord in the heart. So we're going to cover from 8 to 14, the description of the super soul. And then the two types of yogas. So in this section where Sukadeva Goswami is describing the super soul, in these verses, he's describing in detail the Lord in the heart. We cannot get this knowledge through mundane experiment, because Krishna is spiritual, and you need spiritual instruments to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No mundane technology, no matter how advanced, using AI, using any eye, using your own eyes, doesn't matter. You will not be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What to talk about even then describing him. But here we see Sukadeva Goswami is going to describe the Supreme Lord, and in great detail. In great detail. So, how is Sukadeva Goswami able to describe the super soul in our heart? Very simple. Because he is seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart. Remember, I said revelation. You already have the knowledge, but that knowledge needs to be revived, needs to be revealed. Sukadeva Goswami is completely pure, completely perfect. Mahabhagavat. Therefore, he has full revelation of the Lord in the heart. And that is how he is able to describe. Text 8. Kechit swadehantara hridayak vakshe vakashem pradesha matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanja pratanga sanka gadadaram dharanaya smaranti. Others conceive of the personality of Godhead residing within the body, in the region of the heart, and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. So we have been hearing about the Virat Rupa, and how there are those who, on that level of their journey in relation to the Supreme Lord, they are illegible. Their legibility is only on the level of Virat Rupa. Then there are those who now can go further, and now Sukadeva Goswami is describing those who now can go further, like the yogis. They can meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart. And Prabhupada is going to now extend that further. The all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of the localized personality of Godhead is estimated to expand from the end of the ring finger to the end of the thumb. So if you do this, then from there to there, that's the size of the super soul in the region of your heart. Now, what's interesting is that's how practically big the Lord is in the heart. Note, he's not in the heart, because your heart is not that size. Your heart is, around that size. So your heart is small. The Lord is way bigger than your heart. He's in the region of the heart, just like the living entity is in the region of the heart. And according to the living entity size, the super soul takes on that size. But the size of the super soul is immaterial in the sense that Krishna can be big or small. It does not diminish his power. The fact that the Lord is so big, and still surgeons, when they cut the heart, they can't see Krishna, it's a clear sign that Krishna is not material. Prabhupada, today we're hearing a lecture, Prabhupada is saying, many people ask this question, so then can you show me God? And Prabhupada was making the point that you're so quick to ask, can you show me God? Why don't you ask the question, what is the qualification to see God? Krishna is not cheap, that, oh yeah, can you show me God? Yeah, we can show you. It's like some magic. No, you need to qualify yourself to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can't just say, can you show me the president? Like, who you? No, if you can't show me the president, that means the president doesn't exist in this country. To see the president is going to require so much endeavor. You phone the secretary and say, I'm so and so, I live in this place, I want to see the president. They will say, who you now? Where you come from? Why you want to see? They're going to ask you 101 questions. And now you say, but don't ask me so many questions. Just I want to see the president. Sorry. You're not interested in what you want. What's your qualification? Why should the president come see you? Or you come see the president? So if that's what a normal mundane person, what to talk about the Supreme Personality of God? We need to qualify. And then Prabhupada goes further and he says, we need to be eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We need to have that greed to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just some flickering sentiment, I want to see God. Some challenging sentiment, I want to see God. No. Do you have intense greed to see the Lord? And if yes, then the Lord will reveal. The form of the Lord described in this verse with distribution of different symbols, beginning from the lower right hand down to the lower left hand with lotus, the wheel of a chariot, conch, and club respectively, is called Janardhan, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass of people. So here is one form of the Lord described. There are 24 of them. The one that is described as Janardhan. How do we know it's Janardhan? Because of the location of the force paraphernalia that the Lord, symbols that the Lord holds: lotus, chariot, conch shell, club. So whichever hand is holding those symbols, we can understand which form of the Lord it is. So in terms of from the right hand side, right up, then left, then the lower left and left, upper left, we find if the Lord is holding the lotus, then the chariot or the chakra, then the conch, and then the club, then you know this is Janardhan, Lord Janardhan. There are many such forms of the Lord with varied situations of symbols of lotus, conch, etc. And they are differently known as Purushottam, Achyuta, Nishinga, Trivikram, Rishikesh, Keshava, Madhava, Anura, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshan, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayan, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudan, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Adokshaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of this planetary system. And each form is an incarnation of the Lord having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma. There are many millions of other forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragmental offshoot. The Lord exists as Purusha, or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world, but all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated as described below. So here's a picture of the different forms of the Lord accordingly, depending on how he's holding the different symbols. The interesting point your Prabhupada says is that each form is an incarnation of the Lord having different Vaikuntha planets. And the personality of Godhead in these different forms is worshipped in different parts of this planetary system. So each form has a certain role to play in relation to creation. And in different processes, they would contemplate, they would worship the Lord in this feature, depending on the material energy or planetary system that the Lord is playing a role in. 9. Prasannavatram naliyaya tekshanam kadam va kinjalka vishangavasanam vashasham lasan maharatna hiran mayang gadam spuran maharatna kirita kundalam. His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. Unidrarit pankaja karni kalaye yogeshvarastapita padapalavam Shri Lakshanam Kostuba Kandaram Amlana Lakshmya Vanam Malayachitam. His lotus feet are placed over the whirl of a lotus-like heart of great mystics. On his chest is the Kastuba jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf. And there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Prabhupada's purport. The ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all other decorations on the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients. Otherwise, there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in the Paravyoma, spiritual varieties are also distinguished from the material variegatedness. So the ornaments, the flowers, clothing, and all the other decoration on the body of the Lord is spiritual, transcendental, not material. And we know one reason why. Who can tell us in the chat? Give me one reason why the ornaments, the flowers, the clothing, and all the other decorations on the transcendental body of the Lord are identical with him and they are spiritual. Give me a reason why we can conclude that they are spiritual, because they look material. So how can we conclude that they're spiritual? What other information have you heard before that tells us that they are actually spiritual? Please type in the chat. Devotees doing service. Okay, good. So they're all devotees. Yep, they are serving Krishna in this way. Good. Any other takers? So the one reason why they're all spiritual, yes, Nalini Kanta's got it. The expansion of Lord Balaram. Balaram expands as all the paraphernalia to serve Krishna. Therefore, they're all expansions of Balaram. And Balaram is completely spiritual. He's the first expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, not a material person. Therefore, every paraphernalia that's adorning the body of the Lord is spiritual. Now, here's another aspect also which is interesting. The Vigraha form of the Lord is also spiritual. Deities of the Lord in the temple. And even the clothing and the ornaments that is adorned on the Vigraha is also spiritual and not material. 11. Vibhushitam Mekala Yanguli Yakel Mahadaner Nupura Kanakana Dibi Snektamala Kunchita Nila Kuntalev Virochamana Nana Asafe Shalam. He is well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair curling with a bluish tinge, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing. So you can just appreciate the details that are described of the super soul in the heart, which also indicates, if you just recollect all these descriptions, is a person with beautiful features and ornaments. Therefore, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most beautiful person amongst all others. And Srila Sukadeva Goswami describes every part of his transcendental beauty, one after another, in order to teach the impersonalists that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. The impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth is but his radiation, as the sun rays are but radiations from the sun. So Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Dantitat Tattva Vidas Tattvam, the Tattva, the truth, the absolute truth that is described in the Vedas is Advayam, is non-dual, is one. And it's described in Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, three features. And these three features of the Supreme Lord are one and the same absolute truth. So the impersonalists, they're focusing on the Brahman feature. The yogis, they're focusing on this feature that described Paramatma. And the devotees, they're focusing On the Archer Vigraha that is here, we see Radha Madhava, the beautiful form of Krishna, Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these three features are there. And it's interesting, if you look at these three features, Brahman, here Prabhupada is saying, is the radiation, the effulgence of Krishna. That is the Brahman feature. So the Brahman feature has no qualities linked to it. There are those souls that want to worship God without his spiritual and material energies. Therefore, Krishna appears to them in the form of Brahman, energy. Yeah, not even like oneness. Everything. Everything that's one with everything that has no variegatedness. This is the Brahman feature. No material energy, no material variegated, no spiritual energy, no spiritual variegatedness. Brahman feature. The Paramatma feature is where the souls, the living entities, want to worship God, but that God who's the supreme controller of matter, material energy. So the Brahman feature is the supreme absolute truth, who's the master of matter, material energy, with no spiritual energy. That is Paramatma. And then the Bhagavan feature, that is the supreme personality of Godhead, that is the master of the material energy and the spiritual energy. So these are the three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Robert gives this example. The rays of the sun, that's compared to Brahman. The localized sun, that's compared to Paramatma. And the sun god, that's compared to Bhagavan. So you could mathematically conclude Brahman is the supreme absolute minus material energy minus spiritual energy. Paramatma is the supreme absolute truth plus material energy minus spiritual energy. And Bhagavan is the supreme absolute truth plus material energy plus the spiritual energy. Complete. Another aspect of these three features of the absolute truth, which is described in Jaiva Dharma, is said like this: Brahman is without compassion and without pastimes. The Paramatma feature is compassionate, but without pastimes, without lila. And the absolute and the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan feature, is that feature that has compassion and pastimes, lila. And another aspect of seeing these three personalities in relation to Sat Chit Ananda. Brahman is experience of eternality. Paramatma is the experience of Sat and Chit, eternality and knowledge. And Paramatma, Bhagavan, is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Completes eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Complete in Vigraha, full form. Mother Lasha's question: is a picture of Sri Radha Krishna also considered transcendental, similar to Archer Vigraha? And the image of Krishna can contemplate in our minds, is this also transcendental spiritual? Yes. So Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami describes that the form of the Lord can be manifested in using 8 different ingredients. So for example, one can create a form of the Lord in metal, marble, wood, in sand, in your mind, painting, picture. So these are all different forms of the Lord that is manifested using material ingredients, but not material. Why? It's again Why does the Lord appear in the form of the Archa Vigraha? Why does the Lord appear in the form of Virat Rupa? That's his compassionate nature to extend himself to connect those who want to see matter in relation to God. So here you're seeing, let's say, mountains, trees, birds, bees, sun, planets, in relation to the Supreme Lord, and you're making advancement. What to talk about the actual form of the Lord that's described in the Vedas when that's made through different ingredients of material nature? And the Lord appears and manifests in that form, scripturally described or authenticate. The authority of that Archa Vigraha form is there in scripture, that the Lord described this is how he appears in this world, so that we can reciprocate. We can make clothes for him, we can make garlands for him, we can decorate him, we can serve him in this way, we can bathe him, clothe him, feed him, put him to rest, glorify him, sing for him. In this way, we can develop a relationship, a personal relationship with the deity form. And that could be a picture, that could be a Archa Vigraha form, it could be any form of the Archa Vigraha according to the scriptures that is there. So yes, even the pictures are non-different from the Supreme Lord. Naturally, Prabhupada made the point that if you see the deities, and if you see the deities as stone, they will respond as stone. If you see them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will respond as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, there is a level of qualification that is required for the deities to reciprocate with one, but they are non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as one follows the process with faith, then one will begin to see that manifestation. 12. Adina Lila Hashik Te Shanol Lakshad Bri Brubangasam Suchita Buryanugraham Iksheta Chintam Mayam Enam Ishwaram Yavan Manodara Yanavatish Tate. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is said that the impersonalists undergo a series of difficult programs on account of his impersonal meditation. But the devotee, due to the Lord's personal service, progress very easily. Impersonal meditation is therefore a source of suffering for the impersonalist. Here the devotee has an advantage over the impersonalist philosopher. The impersonalist is doubtful about the personal feature of the Lord, and therefore he always tries to meditate upon something which is not objective. Thus, here is an authentic statement in the Bhagavatam regarding the positive concentration of the mind on the factual form of the Lord. And you see this in so many areas in this material world, especially in the form of meditation. People meditate on nothing. And I have no idea what nothing is, but they meditate on nothing. Because if you meditate on nothing, you're thinking of something, so it can't be nothing. And they try to become, they call it mindful meditation, different names they're given. They just try not to think of anything, or they focus on their breathing, or they focus on their heartbeat. They focus on so many mundane material aspects instead of focusing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his features. So yes, that's what they want. That's what they get. And that's the level of spiritual life that they get. Krishna is not going to force more. If you want more, you need to desire more. Just like in a relationship, you cannot, squeeze out love from the other person if you're not reciprocating in the way that you want. If you are extending yourself in a loving service way, attitude, then that will also come out. That will also be extracted from your partner. Instead of wanting love, you should give love. Then you'll get. Those who give, they get. Similarly with the Supreme Lord. When you extend your meditation to the Supreme Lord, the Lord extends his meditation to you. So therefore, here we find Sukadeva Goswami is giving so many wonderful details of the Supreme Lord that one can contemplate. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. We need to hear the descriptions of the Supreme Lord so that we can speak about the Supreme Lord, which then leads to remembering the Supreme Lord. And that is why hearing the authentic descriptions of the Supreme Lord is very, very important. It is suggested herein that the meditative devotee should try to concentrate on the described form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed upon him. His smiling benedictions on the devotee are said to be extensive. And what to speak of his transcendental pastimes. So the Lord is not hackneyed, the Lord is not dry. Reciprocation with the Lord is not single dimension. It's practically unlimited. To the neophytes, the great acharyas offer the same advantage by installing deities in the temples. The neophytes can then come to the temples and directly concentrate upon the Lord by looking at his deity form, Achyamurti. This form of the Lord is equivalent to that described here by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who factually realized the Lord after hearing directly from his great father Srila Vyasadeva. Temple worship is not idol worship, as is misconceived by the less intelligent, because the deity is not a product of iconography. The deity in the temple is authentic because he is installed not according to imagination, but following the instructions of the revealed scriptures. So here we see Prabhupada is describing the relevance of the Acha Vigraha. For the neophytes, they can come to the temple and directly concentrate on the Lord, looking at the deities, serving the deities, worshipping the deities, glorifying the deities. Why? Because the deity is not material. It is Krishna. We should also understand that this is scriptural, this is authentic. So we don't just install the deity for poppy show. We don't just install the deity and leave the deity there and do nothing. No, the deity has a purpose. The deity is there, non-different from Krishna, so that you can develop a relationship with deity. So consider you invite someone to your house. Then you give them a room. And they're going to stay there for 1 week. Once they're in their room, you don't speak to them. You don't serve them. You keep them in the room, locked up for 1 whole week. That's hellish. For the guest and for you. It's an offense from your side, and the guest will not stay there any longer. So when we invite the deity to it, like in the temple, when they do Pram-Pratishtha, they install the deity, like we have Shishinitai Gohari. So Shishinitai Gohari have come, and they're there in the temple. It is Gornitai, non-different. 500 years ago they came. Now they are here, non-different. Which means Krishna is there, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is there. You don't need to go anywhere else to see God. He's there. And one can come and take advantage of the association of the Lord for one's spiritual progress, advancement. So one needs to cultivate a relationship with the deities in your environment. The fact that the Lord has appeared in your environment is not by chance. It's not by chance. We should not take it lightly. We find, for example, the Bhagavatam has appeared in our life. It is not by chance. Prabhupada had put so much effort, sleepless nights, so much resource and energy and compassion to give the Bhagavatam. If we do not read the Bhagavatam, that is really a sign of disrespect, a sign of being ungrateful, a sign of neglect, a sign of a diseased state in relation to appreciating what Prabhupada is giving. Like parents raising a child for years and years and years and years, so much energy, so much resource, so much time, so much struggle, so much difficulties. Those of you that are parents, that have children, let me know in the chat if it's child's play to raise a child, or it really is such a challenging service, more so in Kali Yuga. So much energy, so much resource that goes in to raise a child. And if so much resource and energy is going to raise the child, imagine if the child does not even appreciate, does not respect the parents, does not appreciate all the effort and energy, is not grateful. And not only, not only respectful, grateful, etc., but then even criticize, complain, and say you didn't do anything for me. That will be very heartbreaking. Yeah, it's challenging. It's very heartbreaking to the parents. So we can just consider, if we don't take advantage of what Prabhupada is given, it'll be heartbreaking to Srila Prabhupada. It's like I can just, think Prabhupada would be thinking, I've given them everything, and still they don't want to take it. It takes a village, especially in modern age, with blended families, not typical mom and dad anymore. Yes. In fact, scripture says to raise a child, it's not just parents. It takes a community, it takes a village. That's why we need a community of devotees. We need a village of devotees that are living in a Krishna conscious environment, Krishna conscious way, with Krishna conscious principles, so that the children are raised up in a Krishna conscious environment. We can extend that to Prabhupada, we can extend it further to Krishna. If we don't take advantage of the mercy of Krishna, how do you feel? How do you think Krishna feels? Krishna is saying, I've appeared as in the form of Raja Vigra, and here they are. They don't even come see me. They don't even come serve me. So we want to develop a relationship. Now, here's another twist to this thing. Never think that the Lord needs you. The Lord is not lacking in servants. He doesn't need our lust and commotion in any of our offerings. But Krishna has kindly appeared in the form of Acharya Vigra so that we can offer our service, our humble service, and pray to the Lord that I'm useless, I'm fallen, but please accept for my benefit. And in this way, help the soul on its journey. So Krishna is mercifully appearing. We should take advantage. We should try to see the Lord regularly and do some service, some personal service for the Lord. Develop a relationship. Why are you waiting to see God when you're perfect? When He's here right in front of you in your imperfect form, in your imperfect feature. So, therefore, this is another manifestation of the Lord's mercy, Acharya Vigra form. Therefore, the iconoclast should not try to banish temple worship and risk turning society towards atheism. Imitation worship, however, is not advantageous because it is a product of material imagination and is thus not equivalent to the meditation recommended here in the Bhagavatam. Another point Prabhupada is warning. You cannot manufacture your worship. Worship needs to be authorized. This is how Krishna has authorized how you worship the Acharya Vigra. And according to the sampradaya that you belong, according to the acharyas, you worship the form of the Lord in that way. You cannot concoct your own idea. Sukadeva Goswami is giving a specific form of meditation for the yogis. This is how they need to meditate. They can't concoct their own idea. This is what people do in the material world, right? Yeah, put some incense, think of the incense, and they'll come up with some creative ways where you can think of the incense and think of the air and think of going in and out, and they'll conjure some form of meditation, and then they'll this is the perfect meditation. It's all concocted. And yeah, you smell the nice incense and you feel good. You may get that. But spiritually, to advance spiritually, you're far from that. If you follow the authorized process, you get authorized benefit. You get real benefit. You follow a bogus process, you'll get a bogus benefit, bogus result. The process of meditation recommended here in his Bhakti Yoga, or the process of devotional service after one is liberated from material conditions. Note, the process of devotional service after one is liberated from material conditions. Jnana Yoga is the process of liberation from material conditions. After one is liberated from the conditions of material existence, i.e. when one is nirvrita, as previously stated herein, or when one is freed from all material necessities, one becomes qualified to discharge the process of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga includes Jnana Yoga, or in other words, the process of pure devotional service simultaneously serves the purpose of Jnana Yoga. Liberation from material conditions is automatically achieved by the gradual development of pure devotional service. So devotional service is progressive. We start with Mishra Bhakti, mixed Bhakti. Then we need to slowly improve the quality of our service, the purity of service. And slowly, while we're engaging in that, we become liberated from, as Prabhupada says, material necessities, material desires. And we then slowly become liberated where now we can actually engage in pure devotional service. So pure devotional service really starts after liberation. These effects of Bhakti Yoga are called anartha nivritti. Things which are artificially acquired gradually disappear along with the progress of Bhakti Yoga. Meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first professional step, must show its effect by anartha nivritti. If you are following the process of Krishna consciousness as prescribed by Srila Prabhupada, you can gauge whether your heart is becoming cleansed of all artificial acquired elements. Anything that's not part of your nature will drop off. Anything that is a superposition on your nature will drop off. Anything that is superfluous will drop off. Anything that is material will drop off. Anything that is unwanted will drop off. Anything that is of no value will fall off. Anything that is an obstacle will fall off. Any bad habits will fall off. Why? Because the process of devotional service is cleansing. Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. The practice of devotional service. This is the benefit. The more we absorb ourselves, the more we focus ourselves, the more we remember the Supreme Lord while we're doing our service, being grateful for that service as a privilege, the faster and more effectively the anartha nivritti will happen. And we continue with that consciousness, trying to improve, trying to become more Krishna conscious, so that the anartha nivritti process can completely eradicate all our anarthas. Now, whether it takes 1 life, 2 lives, 10 lives, 1,000,000 lives, 1,000,000,000 lives, yeah, in one sense, it's irrelevant. The fact that one is on the path and striving to purify, that's best. Prabhupada wants us to do it in 1 life. So we should endeavor and pray and beg so that we can achieve it in 1 life. It's an impossible task, but we beg the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas so that we can achieve this in 1 life. The grossest type of anartha, which binds the conditioned soul in material existence, is sex desire. And this sex desire gradually develops in the union of male and female. When the male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggravated by the accumulation of buildings, children, friends, relatives, and wealth. When all these are acquired, the conditioned souls become overwhelmed by such entanglements, and the false sense of egoism or the sense of myself and mine become prominent, and the sex desire expand to various political, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and many other unwanted engagements, resembling the form of the sea waves, which becomes very prominent at some time and next moment vanishes as quickly as a cloud in the sky. The root cause, the grossest type of anartha, the most powerful form of anartha, sex desire. And you see how Prabhupada is extending this power, showing how this power is manifested not just in gross sex that people have, no, even in politics. When you have attachment to politics, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and other types of engagements, it's all an extension of sex desire. So we need to purify this sex desire. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, even this most powerful form of desire can be uprooted. Because Krishna consciousness is supremely powerful. And this sex desire is nothing but pure love of Krishna pervertedly reflected in this material world. Therefore, it's a very powerful force. And this whole material world is revolving around this sex desire, the shackles of sex life, Maitunyagara, shackles of sex life. So gross form, subtle form, everything is a manifestation of this form of sex desire. It's different manifestations, different extensions, different facets of it. It's all founded in this desire of sex life. The conditioned soul is encircled by such products of sex desire. And therefore, Bhakti Yoga leads to the gradual evaporation of sex desire, which is summarized in 3 headings, namely profit, adoration, and distinction. So not only is the political environment, social, family, buildings, cars, material possessions, all these things, philanthropic activity, all these are ramification of sex desire. Even profit, adoration, and distinction is basically all extensions of sex desire. And the beauty of Bhakti Yoga is that it can evaporate this desire. Now, the challenge with this desire is that if you play around with this desire, thinking it will get better or reduce, you're fooling yourself. This desire is so powerful. The more you associate with it, the more powerful it becomes. Not like there's an organization that says, in order for this desire to reduce, you need to vent it out, you need to let it go, just don't stop it. Robert says, no, then that's like a monkey philosophy. Just exploit as much as you can and you'll see it'll go away. No. Why? In Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says, it's like pouring fuel on fire. If you pour more ghee on fire, that fire becomes worse. Doesn't get extinguished. So it is by regulation and by elimination that sex desire reduces. And then by the process of Bhakti Yoga, it can be evaporated. Do not fool yourself thinking, I will play with fire and I'll be very cool and I will not get burnt. Fire will burn. Sex desire will burn. All conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire. And one shall see for himself how much he has been freed from such material hankerings, based principally on sex desire. As a person feels his hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of foodstuff, he must similarly be able to see the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire. That is a very practical instruction. This is not fairy tale. This is not some hallucination and just dreaming state. No, it's a very practical process. Just as you're hungry and then you're going to eat something, when you eat, no one can see that your hunger is getting satisfied. But you can feel that your hunger is getting satisfied. And then when that food is digested, you feel energized. You can feel the energy. So just as when you eat food, you can understand and feel and experience your hunger getting satisfied. Similarly, every one of us, internally, we know the degree to which this desire is strong, or to whatever level this desire is. And to whatever degree that level is, it does not matter. It could be very high, it could be medium, it could be low. It does not matter. What matters is to not fool yourself. That your desire is very high, and what you say, no, Prabhu, don't worry, I'm free from sex desire. Not even low, it's zero. In fact, not even zero, it's minus. If you fool yourself like this, firstly, you're only fooling yourself. And if you fool yourself, trying to fool others, Krishna will teach one a lesson. Maya will teach one a lesson. So we need to understand where you are. Or rather, you need to understand where you are. To what level. And each one will have their own levels of the sex desire. Attraction to the opposite gender. Desire to exploit the opposite gender. Desire to exploit resources. These are all different manifestations of sex desire. So we should know where we are. We should know which type of sex desire am I more prone to. Where does that lust focus on more than other areas? And then pray to Krishna that, my Lord, give me the protection. Protect me from this lust desires. Protect me from the sex desires. Please help me purify and engage in devotional service nicely so that the process will purify you. And you'll see, over time, these desires will be evaporated. They will be evaporated. They will cease to exist. Evaporation means there's urine, and when the sun evaporates that urine, the sun doesn't become contaminated, but that place where the urine was, there is no more urine. It is now purified. So the sex desire will also become completely evaporated, and you will become free. The burden of sex life will be uprooted. You will feel a great weight lifted off your shoulder, of your heart. The living entity, the conditioned soul, is carrying this burden, which shackles him to this material existence. It is unwanted. Prabhupada continues, sex desire in its various forms is diminished by the process of bhakti yoga, because bhakti yoga automatically, by the grace of the Lord, effectively results in knowledge and renunciation, even if the devotee is not materially well educated. So understand, sex desire has multifaceted forms, subtle and gross. And you do not need to be educated on the process. By engaging in the process of bhakti yoga, which is transcendental, will have effect. We simply have to open our heart to the opportunity to engage in the process of bhakti yoga sincerely, with dedication, seriousness. And if we engage in the process of bhakti yoga with sincerity and dedication, seriously, you will have a realization of this purpose without fail. Knowledge means knowing things as they are. And if by deliberation it is found that there are things which are at all unnecessary, naturally the person who has acquired knowledge leaves aside such unwanted things. Deliberate. That means contemplate. Think about these things. Don't just blindly accept, but deliberate. Why? Because the more you deliberate, one may have a certain disease. In this case, we're talking about sex desire, sex disease. So deliberate on that. Is this beneficial? Why is this not beneficial? What does this lead to? Do I want this? Is it healthy for my spiritual practice? Am I getting happiness, real, genuine happiness from this? See, you're deliberating. Am I powerful enough to overcome this disease? Do I need help for this disease? The more you deliberate on it, the more you will understand what you need to do to become free from it. So even contemplating on the disease that you have is beneficial for progress. But do not deliberate on your disease day in, day out. What we want to do is deliberate on the disease to understand its impact, effect, ramification, all the ill effects, etc., like an initial diagnosis. And then you want to contemplate constantly on the process and the mercy of Krishna to remove that. And there is no disease, illness, habit, bad habit, that the Lord cannot remove. And the Lord will remove any anartha according to his desire. We simply have to submit to the process, surrender to the process, and give ourselves to the Lord in devotional service, and let the Lord purify our heart. When the conditioned soul finds the culture of knowledge that material necessities are unwanted things, he becomes detached from such unwanted things. This stage of knowledge is called vairagya, or detachment from unwanted things. We have previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self-sufficient and should not beg from the rich, blind persons to fulfill their bare necessities of life. Sukadeva Goswami has suggested some alternatives for the bare necessities of life, namely the problems of eating, sleeping, and shelter. But he has not suggested an alternative for sex satisfaction. So Sukadeva Goswami has mentioned, there's caves there. Why do you want a house? Why do you want a pillow when your hand is there? And we've discussed that. The point that is made in relation to ours, remember, that is for the sannyasis. That is the level for those in the renounced order. For ourselves is only accept the bare necessities. That's the point that was discussed. Now Prabhupada is making the point that Sukadeva Goswami has mentioned those things for helping you accept the bare necessities, but he hasn't given an alternative to remove the biggest pinprick in conditioned life, sex satisfaction. This is the greatest shackle. So now, how to remove that greatest shackle? One who has sex desire still with him should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. First point. You have sex desire, do not get into renounced order of life. You're fooling yourself and you will fall prey. You will slide, you will fall. For one who has not attained to this stage, there is no question of renounced order of life. So, by the gradual process of devotional service, under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, and following the principles of Bhagavatam, one must be able to at one must be able at least to control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life factually. So here Prabhupada is now giving a concession that at least the gross sex desire should be controlled. One should have overcome that for one to accept renounced order of life with the mission of serving the spiritual master. So one will know internally whether one is ready or not. So purification means getting free gradually from sex desire. And this is attained by meditation on the person of the Lord as described herein, beginning from the feet. So this is the secret of becoming free from sex desire. One should not try to go upwards artificially without seeing for himself how much he has been released from sex desire. The smiling face of the Lord is the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there are many upstarts who at once try to begin with the 10th canto. And especially the 5 chapters which delineate the rasa dance of the rasa leela of the Lord. This is certainly improper. By such improper study or hearing of the Bhagavatam, the material opportunists have played havoc by indulgence in sex life in the name of the Bhagavatam. This vilification of the Bhagavatam is rendered by the acts of the so-called devotees. One should be free from all kinds of sex desire before he tries to make a show of recital of the Srimad of the Bhagavatam. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur clearly defines the import of purification as cessation from sex indulgence. He says, Yatha dishcha sudyate vishaya lampatya tyajati tata dara yet iti chitta siddhi tarat tam ye naiva dhyanat taratyam tamyam uktam. And as one gets freed from the intoxication of sex indulgence by the purification of intelligence, one should step forward for the next meditation. Or in other words, the progress of meditation on the different limbs of the transcendental body of the Lord should be enhanced in proportion to the progress of purification of the heart. Conclusion is that those who are still entrapped by sex indulgence should never progress to meditation above the feet of the Lord. Therefore, recital of Srimad Bhagavatam by them should be restricted to the first and second cantos of this great literature. One must complete the purificatory process by assimilating the contents of the first 9 cantos. Then one should be admitted into the realm of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a gradual process of purification starting at the lotus feet of Krishna. And in our case, if we meditate on the deity form of the Lord, starting at the lotus feet and moving up, this sharpens the intelligence. This purifies our heart. By engaging in devotional service, gradually we become purified. And by studying the Bhagavatam, by understanding the contents, assimilating especially first and second cantos, which are described to be the lotus feet of Krishna, this lays the foundation. It purifies us. It builds the proper foundation, and it purifies us from this root cause of bondage, sex desire. And therefore, meditating, contemplating, reflecting, thinking, associating with these instructions should not be underestimated. It is very, very important. As we're reading Prabhupada's purports, even in English, like we're doing right now, this is purifying the heart of these sex desires. Even if you just do the first and second canto, first, second canto, first, second canto, first, second canto, completely, just go into a cycle of first, second canto, first, second canto, first, second canto, you will see the purification, the revelation, naturally, because it is Krishna himself, not the front. 13. Akai kashon shongani diyanu bhava pavayet padadiyavad dashitam kadabritam jitam jitam stanam apoya darayat param param sudyate diryata yata. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. The process of meditation recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam is not to fix one's attention on something impersonal or void. The meditation should concentrate on the person of the personality of Godhead, either in his Virat Roop, the gigantic universal form, or in his Sachidanand Vigraha, from Samhita 5.11, as described in scriptures. They are unauthorized descriptions of Vishnu forms. They are authorized descriptions of the Vishnu forms, and they are authorized representations of the deities in the temples. Thus, one can practice meditation upon the deity, concentrating his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord and gradually rising higher and higher up to his smiling face. According to the Bhagavad school, the Lord's rasa dance is the smiling face of the Lord. Since it is recommended in this verse that one should gradually progress from the lotus feet up to the smiling face, we should not jump at once to understanding the Lord's pastimes in rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, we gradually become purified by the archana process. So worship the lotus feet of the Lord, offer tulsi to the lotus feet of the Lord, meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, touch the lotus feet of the Lord, put your head on the lotus feet of the Lord, pray to the lotus feet of the Lord, glorify and serve the lotus feet of the Lord. And not that we stop there, we, especially with Archa Vigraha, we can start there and we continue and we go up to the smiling face of the Lord. This purifies intelligence so that we can have purified intelligence to contemplate, to meditate, to engage in devotional service nicely. At the same time, on a higher level, the warning is don't enter into rasa dance, don't enter into the intimate pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. Why? Because you need to be free from sex desire to enter those domains. Yes, they purify sex desire, but at the same time, we need to follow the process given by the acharyas so that at least we can become qualified to appreciate and enter into these pastimes. We dress the Lord, bathe him, etc. And all these transcendental activities help us purify our existence. When we reach the highest standard of purification, if we see the smiling face of the Lord or hear the rasa dance of the pastime of the Lord, then we can relish his activities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, the rasa dance pastime are delineated in the 10th canto, chapter 29 to 33. This is the goal, this is the objective. So if we systematically follow the process of Archana given by Prabhupada, we take advantage of that process. We take advantage of the process of devotional service. We take advantage of the Bhagavatam. Then, as we gradually proceed, we will be able to enter into the Bhagavatam 10th canto and relish the pastimes of the Lord there. The more one concentrates on the transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, the thighs, or chest, the more one becomes purified. In this verse, it is clearly stated, the more the intelligence becomes purified, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. So what does it mean that your intelligence becomes purified? It means you contemplate the unwanted things in this world. Ultimately, this body is unwanted. This material world is unwanted. We don't need this material world. Our world is Krishna's world, spiritual world. Our world is service. So that's where we are servants of Krishna, therefore we need service, not this material world for sense gratification. So that intelligence which we get by looking at deities by engaging in devotional service, purified intelligence, that means no sense gratification, means detachment from sense gratification. So detachment from sense gratification and intelligence increasing is basically synonymous, side by side. The more you become free from sense gratification, it means the more your intelligence is sharpened, purified. The more your intelligence is purified, it means the more you become detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present conditional state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. That is Prabhupada's definition of meditation, or the purpose of meditation. Why do we want to teach meditation? Because we want people's intelligence to become purified. What type of meditation is required? Meditating on the Achavigra form of the Lord, not some void, not some impersonal, not some material thing. If you want to meditate on some material object, make sure that you are connecting that material object to the Virat Rupa. Otherwise, you will stay stuck and just implicate your life more and more and more. Just like a fly that goes into the spider's web and one of his legs get caught. And then he thinks, yeah, it's okay. I got many other legs. I'll use my second leg and I'll just take my first leg out. He pushes his second leg and tries to pull his first leg out. And guess what happens? Both legs get stuck. For another leg, it's okay. And he pushes his third leg to try to rescue the first two. And guess what? He gets stuck. And then eventually all his legs are stuck. And then he thinks, no, I'll just weevil myself, and eventually gets entrapped. So when we use any other form of meditation or process that's speculative, all we're doing is getting entrapped, getting wrapped in the spider's web of material energy more and more. So the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. Because with that intelligence, I can discriminate properly to surrender to Krishna. Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in the archana or to touch the transcendental form of Radha and Krishna or Vishnu deities. For them, it is better to meditate upon the gigantic Virat Rupa of the Lord, as recommended in the next verse. The impersonalists and the voidists are therefore recommended to meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, whereas the devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple. Because the impersonalists and the voidists are not sufficiently purified in their spiritual activities, archana is not meant for them. 14. Yavanya jayate para varesmin vishvashvara drashtair bhakti yoga tavat stanaviya purushashe rupam kriya vashane prayatas mareta. Unless the gross materialists develop a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and the material worlds, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. The Supreme Lord is the seer of all the worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all worlds, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5.29. The spiritual world is the manifestation of his eternal potency, and the material world is a manifestation of his external potency. The living entities are his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live in either the transcendental or the material worlds. Okay, so it's our choice. What do you want? That's where you will go. The material world is not a fit place for the living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord. And in the material world, the living entities become conditioned by the laws of material world. The Lord wants all living entities who are his parts and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world. and for enlightening the conditioned souls in the material world, all the Vedas, all the Vedas and revealed scriptures are there, especially to recall the conditioned souls back, home back to Godhead. Unfortunately, the conditioned soul, the conditioned living entities, although suffering continually the threefold miseries of conditioned lives, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. This is the unfortunate situation. Due to association, due to repeated sense gratification, due to propaganda, the living entity stays stuck. To undo that, we need proper propaganda, proper association, and the proper process. We need to keep ourselves in a healthy environment. See, it is not association that will make you advance. It is not association that will make you advance. It is good association that will make you advance. It is the proper association that will make you advance. Because the material energy is already giving you negative association. The environment is already there. The energy, you're in the material world. So already it's a disqualification. Everything around you is a disqualification. All the people around you, disqualification. So you're already in an environment of disqualification. So don't fool yourself thinking that you can practice spiritual life in the material world without shielding yourself from the negative association by the good association. You need to create an environment of good association for you to advance and progress seriously on the path of God, on the path back to Godhead. It is due to this misguided way of life, of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtues by deeds begin to establish the lost relationship with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. So that's the real purpose of life. That's why we are in this world, for this, not for making a bad bargain a better bargain, and not to live eternally in this world, and not to have some sort of illusory type of existence. I can be eternally happy, I can be, eternally healthy, I can be perfect. No, these are all phantasmagoria, fantasy. Robert uses the word. So it's all fantasy. The real purpose is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in His service. That is the natural position of the living entities. But those who are impersonalists and unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon His impersonal feature, the Virat Roop, or universal form. So some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relationship with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life and to reclaim his natural, unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa, the universal form of the Lord, will gradually qualify one to raise to personal contact. So we don't disqualify any form of meditation. What we do disqualify is not progressively helping souls to move to the next level. So those who are involved, or those who are impersonalists, yes, there's this form of meditation. Then gradually they move higher, and then gradually move higher. So in this way, they become qualified. By the association of the pure devotees, you can get the highest qualification, even though you do not have that. That is why the beauty of associating with Prabhupada's Bhaktivinoda purports, his books, his process, his mercy, is that even if you're an impersonalist, by Prabhupada's purity, by Prabhupada's blessings, by Prabhupada's association, he can give you the qualification where you become qualified to now serve the deities and contemplate on the personal form of the Lord. One is advised herein to meditate upon the Virat Rupa specifically in the previous chapter in order to understand how different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive are but different parts and limbs of the Lord's Virat form. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation with absolute truth. And as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities, and the whole world appears to be a happy and peaceful residence, all the people of the earth. So even on the lowest rank of meditation, of spirituality, if everybody does this and meditates like this, it takes one to developing, or it leads one developing godly qualities. And when that happens, then the whole world appears to be happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. You have not changed the environment. You have simply changed the inside so that the external experience can be felt very happy and peaceful. Everyone is trying to change the external environment without dealing with the inside. Change the software inside and the hardware will change. Without such meditation on God, either personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human being becomes covered with misconceptions regarding his constitutional position. And without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human being. So there isn't many ways to achieve happiness and peace. There is only one way, and that is connecting with the Supreme Lord. So there's different ways to connect with the Supreme Lord and cultivate good qualities. But if one is not doing that, then every other form of misconception, of concoction, will basically cover the conditioned soul more and more. And ultimately, he will experience this material world as hell. So we have the choice to experience this world as hell or to experience it in a happy and peaceful way, engage in devotional service, ecstatic, and eventually return back to Godhead. That choice is up to our intelligence. We need to sharpen the intelligence through the process of meditating on the form of the Lord, and in this way, perfect our life. And thus ends this set of verses of the Bhagavatam. In the first step of God realization, meditating on the Lord in the heart, super soul in the heart that is there in every living entity, in between every atom, that is witnessing all our activities, witnessing our desire, sanctioning our actions. And in this way, by contemplating on the super soul, the yogi can progress further and further in spiritual life. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments, please type in the chat, or you can unmute if you so desire. Kinkar Prabhu says, child rearing, it's demanding, challenging, costly, and serious business to cultivate their consciousness into Krishna consciousness, their conscience into Krishna consciousness, beyond the academic demands. Very true. Ram Kinkar is self-realized in this field. Spiritual role models are essential. Peer pressure and social media is a big distraction. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for being the perfect pure devotee of Lord Krishna in our present day. Yeah. And Prabhupada also said that to raise Krishna conscious children, it's a challenge, but it's a very important service. And just to be Krishna conscious on one's own self is a challenge. Your own mind is a challenge. Then you get married, that's a challenge or two. Then you get children, it's like a crowd now. No doubt, it is challenging. And with this challenge, if we keep Krishna in the center, we put Prabhupada in the center, then with this challenge, we are able to transcend all boundaries, all barriers, all challenges. And not only do we take ourselves back to Godhead, not only do we take our spouse and partner back to Godhead, we also take our children back to Godhead. And we take generations back, current and future, back to Godhead. That's the power. We should see our family members first and foremost as servants of Krishna. And when we see them as servants of Krishna, whether conditioned or not, whether rascals or not, immaterial. But as when we see them as servants of Krishna, then all the demanding, challenging, costly, serious business activities becomes a blessing. Why? Because I am serving servant of Krishna. Not for my sense gratification, for my own purification, for the pleasure of Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas. And when one sees one's family life in this way, then it becomes a blessing. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks for the beautiful Krishna Katha. What are the practical suggestions to handle the many pictures of Radha and Krishna that come into the home, etc.? It is not always possible to keep all the pictures from prior year calendars or pictures that come on boxes, packages, anything purchased, or even labels where names are printed, which is non-different to Krishna. How do we, from a practical perspective, handle this? Because clearly, in terms of today's class, it is extremely offensive to throw it away because it is Krishna, it's Radha. Is there a prescribed method providing guidance on what to do? Yes, there is. So what you can do is you can burn them. Okay, so all the old calendars. So one, you can do two things. One is find someone that doesn't have a calendar, doesn't have a picture, and you can distribute that. So in this way, you're giving Krishna. Tell them, here's a nice picture you can put on your wall. So that's one way. If there's, if you have access and now you want to discard them, you can make a bonfire and put them into a bonfire. You can burn them. So that's the proper way to discard any Krishna conscious material. Another way is to submerge them in the ocean. So generally deities are done in this way. When one makes a deity form, years ago in the Yeovil temple, devotees had made, this was even before the Rath Yatra started in Gauteng. They had a flatbed truck and they made a huge deity of Lord Jagannath from mesh paper. And they would use this deity in the processions. So then, eventually over time, they had to discard the deity. So then what we did was, we went to a river and then you submerge the deity. That's not required, or that's, that needs to be discarded in this way. For whatever reason, you can discard in the river. So those two ways. Shamananda Prabhu says, Samananda Krishna Prabhu says, all glories to Nishmananda Prabhu, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, thank you, Shamananda Krishna Prabhu. And for us, Prabhupada, one time Giraj Maharaj was in Jew, and Prabhupada asked the devotees, it's very quiet today, what's happening? Maharaj said, oh, Prabhupada, it's a holiday. So everyone's on holiday. And Prabhupada said, oh, for us, every day is a holiday. Why? Because every day is a holy day. So for us, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Kartik, whether it's Korpunim, whether it's an ordinary day, for us, every day is a holy day. When we put Krishna, when we put Krishna consciousness as the priority in our life, then every day is a glorious holy day. Shamananda says, thank you very much, Prabhu, for these sessions, reminding us of so many things we take for granted, and also do a reality check on where we are on the path and for encouraging us to keep perseverance in devotional service and to always be thankful to Srila Prabhupada for everything. Yes. I simply am using this platform to remind myself more than anything else. I'm forced to associate with the Bhagavatam. I'm forced to read Prabhupada's purports, and I'm forced to remind myself. Jagannath Priya Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for today's most transcendental class, relishing all the nectar. Kinkar Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I like your analogy. We need to upgrade our software, the intelligence, to change our hardware, the body into spiritual body. Yes. The body is the hardware, the external experience, the internal mindset, thinking is the software. And when you change the software inside, automatically the hardware will change and you'll feel the experience. It's also and you see this, mind over matter. People can change their mindset, and that can even influence the physical body in terms of its functioning. It's very powerful, very powerful. Now, we're not interested in, those type of miracles. Our miracle goes far beyond. Our miracle is meditate on Krishna internally in such a way that your whole external environment and your material body that you currently have all will become superfluous. You feel it as superfluous. You'll experience it as superfluous. It'll, as Prabhupada says, evaporate completely, and your true nature as a spiritual being, your true form, spiritual form, your true environment, the spiritual environment, your true occupation, devotional service, will manifest. And that is the revolution we are creating. That's the revolution that Srila Prabhupada has given us, to actually sort once and for all death. We're not interested in anything else. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, holidays, happy holidays. All good, Srila Prabhupada, awesome class, thank you. Mother Lessa, so true. Bhakti is the only process where even being selfish, example, wanting to learn from others, we end up by eternally benefiting others eternally. So nowhere else, and nothing else can do that. How amazing. So grateful for. Yes, nice point. Just consider, where do you find a process where someone who's a drunkard, he likes intoxication, and he can become Krishna conscious? No, man, that doesn't work. It's like you saying, I can drink more and become more Krishna conscious. Yes, because Prabhupada says when you drink that intoxication and you can think, how wonderful, rasoham apsukonteya. This is the taste of Krishna. Krishna is so wonderful. Just see, even a material desire, something that's unwanted, seen in connection, in reciprocation, in relation to Krishna, can purify you of that same anartha. Nowhere else that works. So yes, wonderful. Thank you. He says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the very informative class, really learning. I'm glad. Thank you very much. So next week, we will not have a class. The following week, we will continue. Right? I will send that on the group as well. So next week, we won't have class. Please have a safe holiday, safe holy day. And the safest holy day is to constantly use our time in hearing, chanting, glorifying, and serving the Supreme Lord. And we hope to meet you all again either physical in some festival, some program, or again online in 2 weeks. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Itai, Go Pramanande, Hari Hari.